Hi, this is Dr. Gregory Sadler. I'm a professor of philosophy and the president and founder of an educational consulting company called Reason.io, where we put philosophy into practice. I've studied and taught philosophy for over 20 years, and I find that many people run into difficulties reading classic philosophical texts. Sometimes it's the way things are said or how the text is structured. But the concepts themselves are not always that complicated, and that's where I come in. To help students and lifelong learners, I've been producing longer lecture videos and posting them to YouTube. Many viewers say they find them useful. What you're currently watching is part of a new series of shorter videos, each of them focused on one core concept from an important philosophical text. I hope you find it useful as well. In his treatise, On Being a Busybody, Plutarch is going to talk about one possible remedy, or at least a way of holding back this vicious curiosity. The Greek for it is Polupragmosunēs, being concerned with all sorts of things that really aren't our business. And he's going to give you a couple different approaches that you can take. One of the consistent approaches that he's going to bring up at several different points with different kinds of, let's say, content is redirecting that curiosity that you have. So not, getting rid of it altogether, but redirecting it to better topics. Now, when we look at the topics that he's going to talk about and the way that he talks about them, these are better in two different senses. One of these is better, we could say, in an absolute sense. It would be good for us to regard these topics rather than the stuff that we're tempted to look into. The other is better in the sense of being less bad. So however you want to call that, it's kind of a negative betterness. However you need to frame it, it's fine. And it's interesting that Plutarch is not just going to say, you've got a problem, you need to totally change yourself, direct yourself only to the good. He's actually willing to say less bad is still better, and so let's discuss that. And it's going to come up at several different points in the work. The very first one is where he tells us right at the very beginning that what we should be doing is shifting our curiosity from things outside, exothen, and shift it to things that are within, aso. And he uses several different terms, metatheis, metastrepon. So, the strephon is coming from this verb to turn. And both of these they're kind of interesting terms because already by this time we have another term that has a meta involved in it that Plutarch uses, not so much in this treatise, but in other places, metanoia, feeling repentance or regret about what one has done. So the idea here is that we should, instead of focusing on other people's problems or miseries or faults, we should look at ourselves. He says, if you enjoy dealing with the recital of troubles, you got much occupation. What a wonderful way to talk about it, right? He says, you have here, diatribein, right? You've got plenty to focus on at home, oikoi, right? So you don't need to go looking in other people's stuff. And he says, just as Xenophon says that good householders have a special place for sacrificial utensils, dinnerware as in another separate place, farming implements should be stored elsewhere, and apart from them, the weapons of war. In your own case, you have different stores of what? Faults, kaka, bad things about yourself. And they come from, the Greek word there is apo, they come from different passions, we might say, or vices. So some of them come from envy. Do you have any envy of people? I mean, if we really take a close look at ourselves, if we're not hiding our faults from ourselves, we probably are envious to some degree. We have some of what the Greeks called thonos, and, maybe we want to get rid of that. Jealousy, zelotupos. This is similar to envy, but envy is feeling pain at what somebody else has that you don't have, in part because you want to have it and you don't like that they have it. Maybe you think they don't deserve it, even though they do. Jealousy is when you do have something and you're insecure about it. You want other people to keep your hands off of it. So you don't want people to, talk to your wife, but you're perfectly fine thinking about other people's wives. You're envious of other people for having wives. You're jealous of your own wife or house or car or position, whatever it happens to be. Cowardice, this is an actual vice for the Greeks, not just a emotion that's considered bad, deilia. And then we have mikrologia, which is translated so well as pettiness. It's looking at little stuff, When we have this wonderful expression in English, that person sweats the small stuff, and we use that pejoratively, that's pettiness. That's being too concerned with things that don't deserve that kind of scrutiny. And so he says, hey, examine these. Block up the windows and side doors of your curiosity that open on your neighbor's property. Open up others leading to your own. Pay attention to yourself. This curiosity and meddlesomeness of yourselves will have an occupation not unhelpful or malicious, but useful and salutary if each person will just say to themselves, where did I go wrong? What deed have I done? What duty neglected? And he says this is a big problem that we don't do that. So if you want to not be such a busybody, maybe pay attention to yourself. That's one thing that we certainly can do. A little bit later, after talking about a number of other points, he's going to suggest that perhaps we should be paying attention to, as he's going to say, better, beltio, and more pleasant, hedio, subjects. So what are those? And again, he talks about shifting and, changing our perspective. So we change that with our soul. We turn our soul to these topics. What are they? Well, one of them is what we would call physics or cosmology or natural science. They would typically talk about it as, matters of the nature. So he talks about matters of the heavens, and things on earth, in the air, and the sea. He says, are you by nature fond of spectacles? If of great ones, apply your curiosity to the sun. Where does it set? And whence does it rise? Inquire into the changes of the moons, as you would into those of a human being. What becomes of all the light she has spent, and from what source did she regain it, right? These are, as he says, the secrets of nature, and nature's not going to be bothered if you find them out. It's not like looking into somebody's house and looking at their secrets. Nature's cool with you doing that. As a matter of fact, maybe we're the beings that nature wants to know about the universe, right? So that's perfectly innocent. You can redirect your curiosity there. And he goes on and says, if you've renounced great things, turn your curiosity to smaller ones, like plants, for example. How are some plants always blooming and green and rejoicing in the display of their wealth at every season, while others are sometimes like these, but at other times like a human spendthrift. They squander all at once their abundance and are left bare and beggared, right? So this is a very elaborate discussion there, isn't it? He goes on and says, why do some plants produce elongated fruits, others angular, others round and globular? Again, you're not going to get yourself in trouble researching plants so long as you're just trying to, figure out how they work and what they do and maybe even what they're good for. That's fine. To be curious about that, purely innocent, not going to get you into any sort of trouble. Then he goes on and he says, not everybody's content with that. Some of us are a bit more morbid. He says, some of us are actually like fly larvae, like maggots who feed and dwell on depraved things like a maggot does on dead matter. If that's the case for you, you probably don't want to think of yourself that way. Well, you can study histories. Historias, right? And all of the evils that we find if we're actually going to look into them. He says you're going to find deaths of men, the shuffling off of life, seductions of women, assaults of slaves, slanders of friends, compounding of poisons, envies, jealousies, the same thing that we feel, shipwrecks of households, overthrow of empires. And he says, glut and enjoy yourself. So if you can't be cool with, looking at your own faults and fixing them, or with innocent physical topics, go ahead and look at history. Glut yourself on it. Have as much as you want. But he adds, don't trouble or pain any of your associates. Don't cause them to get upset with you because you're looking into their stuff, right? Just read about Julius Caesar and what a jerk he was, or Pompey, or pick whoever else you want, right? Be into, your military history, which is, kind of the province of so many guys, but keep it to yourself, You can worry about Rommel, but you don't have to talk about what a great Nazi he was or something like that, right? And Plutarch is saying this is not good, but it's way better than the kind of curiosity that always needs to know the latest gossip, the latest thing that's going wrong, that digs into people's secrets. He offers another bit of advice about something we can do. Again, one that's not particularly good in itself, that we probably should try to leave behind. Now, by itself, if we stopped very early on, it wouldn't be bad. He says, the most useful means possible for turning the busybody from their vice is for him to remember what he has previously learned. So anamnesis, that means bringing back to mind what you previously learned. Now, it could be that you learned, about the universe, could be that you learned mathematics, could be that you learned all sorts of cool history that isn't all sordid and tawdry. But that's not what Plutarch actually talks about. He says that if you open from time to time the deposit box of inquisitiveness, you'll examine it, you'll find it full of many useless, futile, and unlovely things, right? And he says, maybe, this is going to appear disagreeable and silly. And he says, what if a person should run over the works of the ancients and pick out the worst passages in them and keep a book compiled of these sorts of things? And he goes on and he says, even without that, such a man's treasure house of other people's faults it's unbecoming and useless. And then he says something really quite funny here. It's like the city populated by the vilest and most intractable men, which Philip founded and called, it's translated here as Roguesboro, literally in Greek, Poner Polin, right? The city of the Poneroi, the wicked people, right? So, maybe you've got your old background of what you thought about in the past. Well, that's better than going around and digging into other people's stuff in the present. And it has one side benefit. Maybe by doing that, he says, you can actually develop a kind of satiety. So in Greek, place monen, that means having had enough. You know, like when you eat a meal and people are suggesting, have another course. And you're like, oh no, man, I'm too full. I don't want any more. As a matter of fact, if you made me eat more, I might get kind of, bloated. I don't want that. So maybe you think about these things and you're like, I had enough of that. And you can feel a sense of nausea, nautian, which interestingly comes from the word for ship, nous. And, you think about seasickness. Where do people get nauseous? All sorts of sights, but also being out on the ocean. So maybe if you think about these things, you'll actually have had enough and feel kind of grossed out, we might say. And then you don't need to think about those things anymore. That's what you can do with your curiosity. Instead of indulging it in the present by seeking out new objects, you think about the other things you already learned. So that and the history stuff, neither of these is good to think about as far as Plutarch is concerned. The way that thinking about your own vices is good, provided you're going to work on them and not just wallow in them or ruminate. And, thinking about natural science is good as well. These are not good, but they're better than being a busybody in the present, constantly needing to indulge that morbid curiosity that you have to find out all sorts of new things. So these are some of the objects that we can turn our curiosity towards. We still have the curiosity. In this case, it hasn't been completely rooted out, but at least we can sideline it. We can direct it to objects where it's not going to do so much harm to other people and to ourselves.